an MD named Dennis Benjamin, isn't it?
Yes.
I want to call him Richard, but it's definitely Dennis. He's an MD who's just like me, except he's much smarter. He's deeply involved in mushroom hobbying for years and years. And he's got a book out, and these two charts show, on one side, the various morphological types of mushrooms, which is kind of how we think about them, what they look like, which often doesn't have a whole lot of reference to how they evolved. But on the one side are some common stature types of the various kinds of mushrooms. And on the back side is something that gives you a culinary chart of mushroom edibility and poisonousness. And if, say, there are 100,000 named fungal species in the world, then 90% of them we don't care about because, well, we may care, but we don't hunt for them because they're rusts and yeasts and, various small organisms that never create fleshy fruit bodies. But 10,000 of them do create fleshy fruit bodies, and these are the ones that we are interested in, that we go out and collect, that we hope, might be edible, hope to learn a little bit about. Of those 10,000, you watch it break down very quickly into just a few that you're really going to be very interested in, including the handful that are commercially raised, which are, of course, the pizza mushroom in America, and what's called the paddy straw mushroom in Asia, that cute little guy that you get in your soup. That's the Asian equivalent of the pizza mushroom. It's commercially cultivated. Those are the commercial ones. And then on the other side, there's really only a handful that are deadly, that are truly lethal. Fewer than 6 is what he says, but that would include families, like the Amanita family of lethals, which might include 6 or 8 right there. But in any event, there are not that many fungi out there of the fleshy fungi, fleshy macrofungi, that are lethal, and that we need to be so afraid of that we never get interested in mushrooms, which was the way I was, 20 or 30 years ago. I lived in Italy, and the guys all said, "Oh, it's fall, we're going to go look for porcini," and I went, "Not me, I don't want anything to do with wild mushrooms," because I was an American mycophobe.
And isn't, don't you think that Eastern European or European and Asian cultures do hunt mushrooms more and pass that information on? Is that what you've seen? Or?
They are notably mycophilic, and we are notably...
Mycophilic,
yes. We are notably mycophobic.
Okay.
And we inherited that probably largely from our English descent, those of us who came through an English descent. The English are mycophobic. The French love mushrooms, the Spanish, the Italians, all the Middle European, the Germans love mushrooms, and the Asians love them so much that they get themselves into trouble by coming to America and mistaking one of our deadlies for their paddy straw. And that's how you happen to see a lot of these notations in the newspaper. There will be an article about a whole family that got sick and either died or needed liver transplants, or, whatever, and some miraculously recovered from eating mushrooms in California. They've come over and they've looked at Amanita phalloides, this guy here, who you can see with the red hat next to him, the destroying angel, should tell you something. And they look at it and they say, "Oh, that's a paddy straw. It's just like the one from home." And without checking, if they check the spore print, now they would find that's got a white spore print, and the paddy straw has a pink one. So they would be home free if they just did that little tiebreaker test, but they don't even know about it. So they go home and they cook those up, and next thing you know, they're in deep trouble because it does cause liver damage.
Do they look almost the same? Like, where's the other ones that they're looking for? On this?
It's right here. And in this case, they don't look the same. But if you take that mushroom and cut it off at the base, or even if you excavate the vulva, which is the cup that it grows in, we can talk about vulvas later, but mushrooms have lots of different ways morphologically of being in the world, and the vulva is one way. They look enough alike. They don't have the one doesn't have an annulus. spaghetti straw doesn't have an annulus. An annulus is a little ring around, there'll be one on that horse mushroom right there in a while when it grows a little bigger. It's the ring where the partial veil that's been covering the gills falls away. Finally, the mushroom grows up and then out and leaves sometimes veil on the stem. What I want to do, first of all, having already done a lot of things first of all, is to talk for just a minute about what fungi are so that we're all on the same page. We all know what a spore is. It's microscopic, they fly through the air, and they're everywhere. And spores generate mushrooms somehow. A spore, in fact, only one spore will germinate and will put out one tiny cell that's called a hypha. And a hypha is a microscopic, tiny, white, tubular cell, kind of pointed at both ends, that is not destined to get any bigger than its little tiny microscopic self. What a hypha has to do is to branch. And they branch, and they branch, and they branch. And it would be impossible to say that too many times, because that's how they grow, and that's what the fungus is the hyphae. The fleshy fungi are from hyphae that have grown under the soil, typically, or within the trunk of a tree, and it's white. It's that white stuff that you see when you kick up old moldy leaves. It's stringy. The strings you see aren't strings of individual hyphae. They're strings of gazillions of hyphae that have roped together in various ways. But that's it. That's the fungus. What the mushroom is every once in a while, a single hypha will have found a compatible other hypha, and a blessed event will occur where this tiny, tiny little hyphal cell creates something called a primordium. It's a tiny little bump on the side of the cell that contains a fully organized mushroom. Again, at the microscopic level. And the only thing that mushroom has to do is to grow, add on more hyphae. The mushroom itself is made of hyphae. The world of mushrooms is very simple. There's no various kinds of cells that have different functions. It's all just hyphae. So it starts adding on hyphae in various compacted positions and configurations and all of that. And all it does is add them on to this tiny primordium until it becomes a button, and it pops up through the ground and grows upward first and then outward secondly, if that's its destiny. All of this time simply, dealing with hyphae, no other specialized cells. That's what's happening. This is the fruiting event, and the spores are contained within this fruit. So, to go back to square one, the hyphal mass, these hyphae that have been splitting and separating, is like the tree, and the mushroom is like the apple. It's got the seeds in it. It's only going to live once. It's going to open up and disperse those spores to the world, and then that's its nature. It's done its number. And the spores, of course, come in great quantities, and that's because they don't necessarily expect to encounter a good simpatico substrate where they'll be able to germinate. So there's just lots and lots of them. The air is full of spores. The world is full of spores. We were just saying before we started, some students did some tests involved with the environmental issues now that people are worried about, contamination of buildings and stuff like that. Botrytis is one of the things. It's not botrytis, doesn't matter anyway. But they're worried about sick building syndrome. And so they took a mushroom in a box into a closed office building that was sealed up as nice and tight as we like our office buildings to be. And they opened the box, and they had sensors set out in the building on the various floors. And it only took 15 minutes for spores to get to the 5th floor. Because spores are like that. Nothing stops them through the ventilating system and, seams and the construction and every other thing you could imagine. So they definitely go anywhere they want to. And you're not, except unless you've got, hermetically sealed special stuff, you're not going to keep them out. The hyphae, the name of this hyphal thing, to give you a sense of what happens when all these hyphae start branching and forking and